Hello there.
Hello.
Did you mean to stream to Khazi's channel? I'm fine with streaming to Khazi's channel. Khazi's fine with us
This
streaming.
is what happens when you rush.
Aha. So let me take us off Khazi's channel.
I don't know why my camera got.
And we can go back to also streaming on Twitch. Not that anybody ever watches on Twitch, but some of the most interesting people who have ever watched my stuff have come from the Twitch channel for some reason, including Kirk.
Kirk, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see. So you're looking at me from the side, which I guess is a nice view, but
Yeah, I mean, people say that a good streamer should have the camera right in front of them and the screen to the side, but
that's good.
Yeah, I'm not a very good YouTuber, so
Yeah. So
hopefully God will
forgive.
Yes. Why every single time I turn off the thing, it goes back to, so the side panel shows up when you
on Safari
when you click on something.
Yeah.
And then when you make it go away, it moves the whole entire thing. You need to design a better UI for them.
Yeah, I think that's probably just like a technical issue that they have. Yeah, they probably should fix it. If they need help, I can help them. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind.
You wouldn't mind giving them some.
So
Okay, we should probably actually do some Mesilat Yesharim this week.
Probably.
What do you think?
Okay. Let's.
I believe it's my turn.
Yes.
Okay. So we're in how to acquire the. Is that it?
No, I think we are. Aren't we in Preshut?
We may be in Preshut. Okay.
13.
Yeah. What is 13?
13 is the trait of Preshut, the abstinence, separation.
Okay, we were on 1322. Uche'inyan ze amru be'inyan ben sorer umore. Right. So we have this particular law in the Talmud. It's the only commandment that the Talmud says. There's one opinion in the Talmud. Lo hayta ve'lo yiyeh. That such a thing never happened and will never happen. It's actually quite controversial thing, but this is also where Rabbi Moses Feinstein learns out why people should not smoke weed. Is the Ben Sorer Umore. So the Ben Sorer Umore is the rebellious son who it says in the Torah he eats and he drinks and and so his parents are to take him to the elders and he is to be put to death, right? So question becomes like, what's this going on, right? Mm-hmm. How do you put a child to death for being gluttonous, right? But what we first of all, the Talmud says that the actual thing did not happen, but the Torah is merely explaining to us how important this idea is of not being a gluttonous person, not putting yourself onto a path in a sense, nipping it in the bud of becoming a drunkard or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
So reading Pirkei Avot, and the Rambam has talks about it, and it says that you don't know schar mitzvah, or it's this one Mishnah that goes through the talking about the reward for a mitzvah, or the punishment for a transgression and things like that. Some things we can know, some things we can't know.
Mm-hmm.
The Rambam says that we can sometimes see, we can understand, or we can deduce, I guess, the importance of a mitzvah by its punishment. So it's interesting that this one is right. It's a capital crime. I think the same I would say about Shabbat, that it's also a capital crime, and you would think. And anyway, when it says, you can wonder why is smoking a cigarette considered, like, why do I need to be put to death if I want to watch soccer on television?
I mean, especially
but yeah,
the one example of a person who is put to death in the entirety of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. There's only is
the mekoshesh.
I think that's the right word. The person who goes and gathers wood on the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Right. And like that's the primary example, and the question becomes:
goes and
gathers wood. Yeah. Slovchad. Goes and gathers wood. Like you couldn't pick a better. Like, no, it's like the tiny thing, right? It's the one hotza'ah. People are like, that's not really a malacha. It's like, nope, it is, and that's the one that the Torah decided to accentuate.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we'll have to learn from that, probably in a different stream.
So the Talmud in Sanhedrin says, "Amda Torah al sof da'ato," right? The Torah looks at it based on that what it is going to end up being, right? El inyana znut, right? When it is in regarding to promiscuity, amru kol haro'eh sota bekilkulah yazir atzmo min hayayin, right? So the famous question of why does the Torah talk about the sota, which is this woman who is suspected of adultery, and her husband brings her to the temple and gives and there's this ritual, right, to prove her guilt or innocence, and then right afterwards there is this there's the Nazir, there's the Nazirite vow, right? So the Talmud asks, why are these two parshiot next to each other? And the answer it gives is that anyone who sees a sota, a woman undergoing such a ordeal, bekilkula, in her destruction, he should sanctify himself, right?
Right.
Not drink wine, right? To learn the lesson from it, right? V'tir'eh, ki zot hi tachbula gedola la'adam lema'an hinatzel miyitzro. Then this is a great advice for a man to be saved from his evil inclination. Ki kevan shebihiyoto be'esek ha'avera kashe alav lenatzcho l'chbosh oto, right? That when a person's already involved in the sin itself, it's at that moment it's hard to stop yourself and to conquer your evil inclination. Al ken tzarich shebe'odenu rachok mimenu. So what you need to do is that when you're still far away from it, yashir atzmo rachok, he should keep himself far away. Ki az yihyeh kashe leyetzer lekorvo eleha. Therefore, it would be very hard for his evil inclination to bring him towards it. Hine habeila im ishto muteret hi heter gamor. And so we can talk about intimate relations between a man and his own wife, right? Which is it's more than heter gamur. It's something that is completely allowed. It's a mitzvah, right? Amnam, however, kvar tiknu tvila leba'alei kirayin. So we have this takanat, what's called takanat Ezra, which is that a man who has relations with his wife is supposed to go to the mikvah before he says his prayers.
Takana that never. It's not really an halacha.
Oh no, people keep it.
Well, I mean, but it's not except right. I mean, it's a famous example of an halacha that.
Oh right, it's not. I mean, it's not a binding halacha because
even though it was originally supposed to be.
Right, when Ezra, the prophet, made that takana, but even today there are people who are certainly Hasidim who go to who go to every day go to the mikvah, but it's something that prushim, that people who are in fact sanctify themselves, they after having relations, they go to the mikvah. Right? Omnam kvar tiknu tvila leba'alei karayin shelo yihiyu talmidei chachamim metzuyim etzel neshehem ketarnagolim. Right? This is actually it's a din in Shulchan Aruch that a person that should not be found by his wife like a rooster by the chicks. Right? Every single day. Lafi sha'af al pi shahama'aseh atzmo mutar. Right? So there's this tevilat karayin. There's going to the mikvah, right? In order to kind of make a person a little bit, hey, cool off a little bit, right? Because even though it's something that is permitted, omnam kavar hu matbia ba'atzmo shel adam hata'ava hazot, right? But the person becomes accustomed to this lust, right, in his nature. Umisham yachol lahimashech el ha'isur, right? Then therefore he can be dragged into something that is not permissible. So he's a little bit careful even with his own wife, so that he should not come up to something else. Like our rabbis, sages taught, Ever katan yesh ba'adam must be ra'ev mar'iv o savea. The famous saying of the Talmud in the Sanhedrin, man has a small organ that if he feeds it, it will be hungry, and when he starves it, it will be satiated, right? Mm-hmm. That once a person accustoms themselves towards some things, and the fact is that there is this Pavlovian conditioning that when you become accustomed to satiating certain things, right, you become even more likely to want. And frankly, a lot of people, it's funny, I had that conversation with a professor from St. Vladimir's theological seminary, which is the OCA seminary for priests. Mm-hmm. And he's the counselor there. And he said that the most common thing that people come to him is about their porn addiction. Mm-hmm. And like these are guys who are studying to be priests, and most of them are, I believe, married, right? But
this is Reform.
No, this is Eastern Orthodox priests.
Eastern Orthodox. Okay, so
Saint Vladimir's, they're not Jewish.
Yeah. No, I thought Reform,
Protestant.
Protestant.
Yeah, no. This is Eastern Orthodox.
Okay.
So in Eastern Orthodoxy, if you're married already before you become a priest, you can become a priest. Okay. But once you become a priest, you're not allowed to get married after that.
Okay, interesting. I would have assumed that they wouldn't be married then if they have this kind of addiction. But
well, maybe I don't know what he was talking about, because there's certainly a lot of them who are married.
yeah,
But he said the most common thing people come to him for is porn addiction, which is
right.
very common. And
So,
honestly, porn addiction is very common.
mhm.
And one of the horrible things about porn addiction is that it progresses. It, like, people start craving more and more hardcore and weird stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, there, especially this in particular with regard to sexuality, there's this aspect of, like, you try to feed it, and it becomes even more hungry.
Yeah,
You
and
starve it, it becomes less hungry. Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, and I think there is another aspect of it where it's and I think maybe that's maybe a reason for maybe the also not drinking and eating before tefillah in the morning,
Mhm.
which is before you satiate your the fact that you satiate your body before you pray in the morning, before you do worship. When you when you do that when you engage with a desire and you fulfill it, or you however you want to call it, then it reduces your motivation to do other things, like your overall motivation, your overall um, spiritual libido also takes a hit. So I
I
mean, there's
mean,
there's a
uh,
famous, like I mean, for sports, for people that sports, like you don't want to engage in sexual relations also before certain things, because it just takes a hit on you, a physical hit, but also from in terms of motivation. And I think also people talk about it in terms of performance, even eating.
yeah.
The fact, if you're not eating, you're craving something, so you're more motivated in general. Don't you do
The
that with your cat?
what?
Before you feed your cat, you
What
should
about
you should play with Shadow.
so that she's hungry?
Yeah, that she's like, she feels like I'm actually going for the food. I'm actually chasing my food, or I'm chasing something, and then it kind of triggers her to then sit down and eat.
I've always free fed my pets.
I
Like,
see.
I just if there's always food available and they can eat as much as they want.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, and honestly, like, yeah, I hear you, and that it certainly is. I mean, we've gotten into a culture of not fasting ever, which is a problem. But specifically, this is one of the things where Chabad and Hasidim eating before davening is what has long and continues to be one of the big fights with the Litvaks.
Tell me
So
about it. I have a Litvak friend. He's I'm surprised one of his biggest issues with attending the Chabad
yeah, that they
is
eat.
their punctuality to prayer, especially in the morning.
Right. Yes. It's. I mean, it's funny. So when I got back from yeshiva, I would I would pray. So on Saturdays when I would be at the Chabad house, I would pray Shachrit, because usually we didn't have a minyan for Shachrit anyway. I would pray for Shachrit by myself, make kiddush, eat, and then join them for Musaf and for Kriyas Torah and Musaf.
What time would you finish?
I would usually be done by, like, I don't know, 9:30, and then I would take Mushki for a little walk.
Mm-hmm.
Mushki and I used to take Shabbos walks. Now she has two kids already, and she was like 3, maybe 4. Yeah.
Mushki is like maybe the one of the kids of the rabbi kids, your rice kid,
Who do you think Chaya Mushka
right?
would
Okay.
be? Like, the oldest kid is Mushki. The second
Mhm.
kid is actually, he's not a Menachem Mendel, because for reasons. But
Mhm.
the first kid, their first kid was Mushki. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, enough reminiscing. Okay, ולא אלא שאפילו בשעה הראויה והעת ההגון אמרו על רבי אלעזר שהיה מגלה טפח ומכסה טפחיים. So even when it was appropriate in the right time, right? It says in the Darim that Rabbi Eliezer he would reveal a cubit and he would hide 2 cubits. ודומה למי שכפלו ש"ד, that he was like someone that a demon was forcing him to do it. כדי שלא ליהנות אפילו בשעת הנאתו. That he should not take unworthy pleasure even at the time that he was involved with his wife.
Eliezer was intense.
Rabbi Eliezer was very intense, and I mean, he, in a certain sense, he was also a like chas v'shalom, but like also like the Talmud is actually very critical of him in certain senses.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one with the thing of the oven of Achnai, right? So that he was put in, he was excommunicated. Okay. והמלבושים והקשותים לא הזהירה התורה על ים או על תבניתם. Right? So regarding clothing and jewelry, the Torah doesn't say that they shouldn't be too beautiful or how they should look. אלא שלא יהיה בהם כליים ויהיה בהם ציצית ואז כולם מותרים. Right? So just as long as you don't have mixed fabrics, right? So shotness, right? And if it's a 4-cornered garment, you should have tzitzit on it. But generally, like you're allowed to wear whatever you want. No, however, mi lo yeda bishat haper v'harikma תימשך הגאווה וגם הזונות יגבול בה. Right? Who, I mean, ask Chazi. He dresses so well, and he was involved in mixed dancing. God have mercy on our souls. But like when somebody dresses very nicely, right, that it can bring them to being proud, prideful, and even towards sexual immorality. מלבד הקנאה והתאווה והעושק הנמשכים מכל מה שהוא יקר על אדם להשיגו. Not to mention all the jealousy and the lust and the oshek is oppression.
Yeah. Shock. Yeah.
Yeah. Oppressing others that comes from anything that people see as valuable, right? To get. Kuvar amru zal. It says in Bereshit Rabbah, Kevan shero'eh hayetzer she'adam adam shetole ba'akevo memashmesh begadav umesalsel besa'aro omer ze sheli. That when a person sees that there is the evil inclination is grabbing onto his heel, right? He should shake out his clothes and curling his hair.
No, I think the swinging his heels when walking is like walking on tiptoes kind of thing.
Right.
He's walking with a swagger. So when the Yetzel sees that somebody is walking with swagger and he's stepping his curls.
When the evil inclination sees the man,
he says, "This guy is mine. I got him. That's it."
Okay. I was not aware of that particular midrash. Interesting. hati'ul v'hadibur im eino b'davar asur, right? So going on trips or talking, right? If it's not, you're not doing anything wrong with it. Vadai din Torah mutarhu, right? Of course, according to the Torah, this is something that's allowed. Omna, kama bitul Torah nimshach mimena, right? How much does just talking about stuff or going on trips keep a person from learning Torah? Kama min halashon hara, chas v'shalom, how much people come to speak gossip. Kama min hashkarim, or even lie. Kama min haletzanut, right? A person that becomes a scoffer, the omer, and it says in Mishlei, Mishlei is Ecclesiastes or Proverbs? Proverbs. Barova devarim lo yachdal pesha. In having many things, in many words, right? It's not. There's no lack. You cannot not have sin, right? Because when you talk, there's the possibility. Klal hadavar. What's the rule of the matter? Kevan shekol inyanei haolam einam eila sakanot atzumot ech lo yeshubach mi sheyirtze lemalet mehem umi sheyarbe laharchik mehem. Right? So many dangerous things in the world, right? How could it not be a praiseworthy thing to keep yourself from them and to keep more distant from such things? Zehu inyan haprishut hatov. This is a good way of prishut, of being ascetic in a sense. שלא ייקח מן העולם בשום שימוש שהוא משתמש ממנו, right? That he shouldn't take from the world anything that he himself wants. אלא מה שהוא מוכרח בו, only that which he has to. מפני הצורך.
Sorry, you can finish.
Yeah, מפני הצורך אשר לא בטבעו עליו. Regarding, he should only take that which he needs according to his nature. Yeah.
No, this just reminded me. So my mom has one of her favorite songs. Well, I don't know if this is her favorite song, but it's one of her favorite movies. But it's called "The Bare Necessities."
Okay.
From Jungle Book.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Sorry.
So the Jungle Book. So there's a song called the Bare Necessities, but they kind of.
Okay, I do know that one.
Mowgli.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what he's talking about is, so it's kind of like chiseling down for like, it's kind of like doing the diet where you take off everything, and then you take in only the things that have a good effect on you, right? So I don't know, you start with meat, you start with eggs, you start with like the blend stuff or the blend stuff, but also stuff that you need for your nutrition. And then you only just do the necessity, and then if you see something gives you a better effect, you immediately withdraw back because you're very specific about it. So it's interesting.
Okay. Okay. Weiter. Hu me shehishtabeach Rabbi b'mamar shezacharti. Right. So we explained that when Rabbi Judah the prince was passing away, he raised up his hands and he said, his 10 fingers, and he said that I have not taken even a small bit, my pinky's worth of pleasure from this world. Even his little pinky. Israel, even though he was the Nasi, the prince, the leader of the Sanhedrin. V'shulchano shulchan melachim, and he was incredibly wealthy. Um, his dining table was set like that of a king. Behechrech likar nisiuto, that it was something necessary because somebody in his position had to have such a thing. Ukamamar zal, like they said in the Talmud of the Zara, shnei goyim bebitnech. This is where in the Torah, um, Rebecca is told that she has two nations contending in her stomach. Ze Rebbe Antoninus, right? So the comparison is made between Jacob and Esau and Rebbe and Antoninus, who was the Caesar at his time. Shelo pasak ma'al shulchanam lo chazeret velo kishut velo tznon lo biyamot hachama velo biyamot hageshamim. That there was, I mean, I don't know exactly what these things are. Chazeret, I guess it would be lettuce. Kishut, I have zero clue. And tznon. These are all supposed to be delicacies that lettuce nor radish nor cucumber.
Kishu is, it's cucumber, or what's that thing that looks like a cucumber?
No idea.
Okay.
But all of these things which were delicacies that were seasonal vegetables, right? They always had it fresh vegetables all year round.
Right.
V'chizkiyahu melech Yehuda kamochen, right? And similarly, Chizkiyahu was one of the righteous kings of Judah, right? Similarly.
Yeah, we spoke about him. Mentioned.
Ushar hamamarim shazacharti, and all of the other things which I explained. Kula mekaymin umorim sheyesh la'adam lifrosh mikol ma shehu ta'anug olami lama'an lo yipol b'sakanato. Right? All of these prove that a person should try to abstain from the worldly joys and pleasures, so that he should not come to any sort of danger. Ve'im tish'al v'tomar. But if you're going to ask me and say, im ken, if so, efo, shezeh davar mitztarech u'muchrach, right? If this is something that everybody needs to do, lama lo gazru alav hachachamim? Why didn't the sages say, okay, then you couldn't, you shouldn't eat, or you shouldn't? Lama kamo shegazru al hasayagot v'tekanot shegazru, right? We have takanot and gezarot, right? We have the rabbinic edicts. You're not allowed to eat chicken with milk, so that you wouldn't come to eat a cheeseburger, chas v'shalom. Hinei hateshuva mevoeret upshuta. This the answer to that is very clear and explained. Ki lo gazru chachamim gezerah eila im ken rov hatzibur yecholim la'amod bah. That only that a rabbinic edict is only on things that people can accept, and frankly, we see that they did make takanot, like you mentioned with Tevilat Ezra, that the people did not accept, and we say that if the people do not accept it, then it is not a true takana.
I wonder, is it if we have a rabbinic takana, and it was, and the people were able to accept it at that time when that takana was given, but let's say at a later point,
people did accept it.
People just is like the situation is different. It's much harder for people. They can't. They're not in a position. We think they might be not in a position to be able to actually, the whole people to actually do it. Is there a way to roll that back, or
The only real way of doing something like that is the only real way of doing something like that is if a greater a greater rabbinic court than the one which made the gezerah were to uh, were to change the takana. And generally, I am not aware that that's ever actually happened, that a greater one has done it. Unfortunately, nowadays there's a lot of people who like to imagine themselves so great that they can, in fact, do such a thing. But generally, in the Orthodox community, that's not accepted.
Okay.
Ve'ein rov hatzibur yacholim lihiyot hasidim, and most people cannot be very pious. Aval dai lahem sheyihu tzadikim. It's good enough that they're righteous people who don't do the things. We don't have to make it that they have to also do further things.
Yeah, above the measure law. Yeah.
Yeah. Hasridim asher ba'am, but the princes. I mean, sarid is, how do you translate sarid?
Sarid is like a remnant.
Remnant.
Yeah.
Okay. Hachafetzim lizkot lekirbato yitbarach, right? Who desire to be close to God. Velazakot b'schutam lachol sha'ar hehamon hanitla bam, right? And they want to have greater refinement and merit than the general population. Lahem magia lekayem mishnat chasidim, right? These people should do the things that are the teachings for the pious. Asher lo yichlu lekayem ha'acherim, which other people are not capable of. And I mean, this really does get into the whole thing of nekudat habechira, right? Rabbis talk about where is your choice point, right? Your din and Shulchan Aruch, everybody should get up in the middle of the night on the nights that Tikkun Chatzot is said and spend a nice 5, 10, 15 minutes mourning the destruction of the temple. Guess what? Vast majority of people never say Tikkun Chatzot. The vast majority of people have never even heard of Tikkun Chatzot, right? So to insist that, hey, it's a din in Shulchan Aruch, you should be able to do it. Look, that's not what most people. Each person is at their nekudat habechira, right? And I've told many times the story when I first got to Or Sameach. I was in one of the first classes that Rabbi Gottlieb was giving, and his whole class was about how a person who's just starting on Shabbat, who doesn't live near an Orthodox synagogue, shouldn't decide, oh, I'm not going to drive to synagogue, right? As one of the first things that they become convinced that there's a God, and I'm like, this is Rabbi Gottlieb. Right? It's not some reform rabbi telling you to drive on Shabbos, right? But for a person who's at the very beginning, just starting, right, telling that person not to drive to synagogue, that's not kedai. That's not the right thing for that person, right? So nekudat habechira, and what is right for that individual person is the question there, right? Hem sidrei haprishut ha'ele ki bazeh bachar Hashem, and this is the manner of prishut, of setting yourself aside in holiness, because this is what God has chosen. Shekevan she'iyafshar la'uma shetiyeh kula shaveh. Shava, right? That b'ma'alat achat. It's impossible for all people to be equal, for there to be one speed, as PBK likes to call it, right? That it's necessary that you have many speeds for the various people who what they are capable of. Ki yesh ba'am madrigot madrigot, because any nation has various levels of people. Ish lafi sichlo, each person according to his intellect, his manner, right? הנה לפחות יחידי סגולה ימצאו אשר יכינו את עצמם הכנה גמורה. Right? There should at least be some people who have the great fortune, right, to prepare themselves in a complete and holy way. ועל ידי המוכנים יזכו גם הבלתי מוכנים אל אהבתו יתברך והשראת שכינתו. Right? And it's through our relationship, the rest of the people, through our relationship to these holier people who are actually able to hold themselves to a loftier level, then we also are brought closer to godliness and the indwelling of the Holy Spirit of God. Yeah? Okay, Inyan Shadarshu Zal, and like our rabbis explained about Arba Minim Shabalulav, right? So there's the whole thing that there are the 4 species of the lulav, right? So there's the citron, the willow, the willow, the myrtle, and the date palm. Those are the 4 species. And as they, I believe this is the one that explains, an etrog, right? Most people think of the etrog as the importance of the arba minim, right? Because it's a fruit, it has a smell and a taste, right? And the tamarim, right? A date is sweet to eat, but it has no smell, and a myrtle has a smell, but it's not edible. And then you have the willow, which you can't eat and you can't smell it, right? But you bring it all together, Yavoa ele v'yichapru al ele, right? That each has its individual capacity, which, I mean, yichaper means to atone, but it also means to cover, right? To the other ones. Ukavar matzanu leEliyahu Zachor Latov, right? To Elijah of blessed memory. Sha'amar leRabbi Yehoshua ben Levi b'maaseh de Ula bar Kosher, regarding the story of Ula, the son of Kosher. I don't know this story. It's from the Jerusalem Talmud. Heshivo velo mishnahi, that he answered him, but it's not actually a mishnah. It's not something that is taught. Af hu amru lo v'chi mishnat chasidim he. He said to him, but it is a. So he asked him, is it a teaching for the pious? I don't know the story. I mean, I guess we could go read the story. Do you know the story?
No.
Should we take a little? This might be a good place to stop, and let's. So I am going to. So 40, where we got to, not very far. I'm going to put that into the thing. And then let's go learn some Talmud Yerushalmi.
Oh.
Okay, so Talmud Yerushalmi, it's always very difficult to find your exact place in the Talmud Yerushalmi because it's not as, the citations are not as standardized as they are in the I'm just checking to see that I had the correct.
Let me see what they say here. So that's just a Gefix mode? No.
I find where we were. 810. Trumot 810. Why did it bring me to 9-1? Oh, because there's no 810 in this version of the Talmud.
Wait.
Let me see if I can find
Oh, okay. So here, Yerushalmi Tmurot 8:10. Yeah, right.
Well, this version of the Yerushalmi doesn't have 810.
Let's see what they say.
Let me see if I can find Mishnat Hasidim. Mishnat. Oh, are you looking? Yeah, you should be looking at the same thing. You're seeing. Yeah, Mishnat Hasidim.
84b, maybe.
84b?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me see. First, let me see if I can find it. There we go. 8411 they have.
This is an easy start scroll.
Amar le velo Mishnah asiti. Amar le vezo Mishnat Chasidim.
Right.
Okay. So are we gonna my rabbinic Hebrew is not good enough to study the Jerusalem Talmud, so let's do it in English. It was stated a group of people on the road were met by Gentiles who said to them, "Kill us one of you that we may kill. Give us one of you so that we may kill him.
Same anyway.
Otherwise, we shall kill all of you. Even if all of them are killed, they should not hand over a Jewish person. If they designated one like Sheba ben Bichri, they should hand him over so as not to be killed."
Right. If he's specific.
What was with Sheba? Even though Sheba ben Bichri revolted against David and the entire affair was intra-Jewish, the action of the people of Abel Bet Macha is taken as legal precedent in all cases.
Right. I think what I remember learning about this case is that, yeah, like if the town is sieged and they're asking you, they tell you, give us one Jew and we won't kill all of you, and they're not saying who exactly, then you can't do it. But if they give you
ask
somebody
for a particular person, yeah, then you
can do it.
Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said on condition that he be guilty of a capital crime like Sheva ben Bichri. But Rabbi Yochanan said, even if he's not guilty of a capital crime like Sheva ben Bichri, it's in the, I guess, the specific thing, like you said. Ula bar Koshav was prescribed by the government. In the Roman manuscripts, koshar, okay, was prescribed by the government. He fled and went to Lida to Rabbi Joshua ben Levi. They came and surrounded the city. They said to them, "If you do not hand him over to us, we shall destroy the city." Rabbi Joshua ben Levi went to him and talked him into being handed over to them. Elijah be remembered for good things, used to appear to him. He stopped appearing. He fasted many fasts. He appeared to him and said, "Do I appear to informers?" He said to him, "Did I not act according to a Braita?" He said to him, "Is that a statement for the pious?" Interesting.
So interesting.
So, I think
I get it.
Yeah. So Elijah is saying, "Okay, you did something that was taught by the rabbis, fine, but that doesn't qualify you to be the type of person that's
Maybe you should be.
Elijah appears to.
Yeah, right. And it's not. Is that? Yeah. What you're saying, is that what the Chassid would say? Is that what a pious person would say? I did what the Brida said.
Yeah.
Right. It's the halacha. Yeah, that's also what I remember. Right. Yeah. Like if you. I wonder if it's in the Bavli too. Like if you hand over the person, even though that's the halacha, you should do it regretfully. You should do it. You shouldn't do it. It shouldn't be easy for you, and maybe you shouldn't even agree to do it at first or something.
I mean, the interesting thing is, he went and convinced him to turn himself over, but even that, yeah, Mishnat Chasidim, interesting. Okay.
Right.
Very interesting. Okay.
Nice. Very nice.
Very nice. We studied some Jerusalem Talmud. The Jerusalem Talmud, the Hebrew is very difficult. It's because it's a different form of what you call it.
I guess it's the Hebrew that was spoken or that was used in Israel at the time.
Yeah. Tane siot bnei adam shehayu mehalchin b'derech upag'u lahem goyim.
Tane siot, yeah, that's.
Va'amru tenu lanu echad mikem v'na'arog oto. Right, this is Hebrew. Ve'im lav harei anu horgim et kulchem. Afilu kulam neragin lo yimsru nefesh achat misrael. Yichadu lahem echad kagon Sheva ben Bichri. So yeah, I guess the thing is Yichadu lahem echad kagon. Like I think it's a question of how you understand this this thing. Like did they specify a particular one, or can they set aside someone specific like Sheva ben Bichri? Yimsuru oto velo yahargu. Achar Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish v'hu sheyihyeh chayav mita k'Sheva ben Bichri. V'Rabbi Yochanan Amar af al pi she'eno chayav mita k'Sheva ben Bichri. Ula bar koshav tavate malchuta. See, I wouldn't have been able to translate this. Arak v'azal lilod gabe Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Desired him to vate malchuta. The
probably the government wanted him.
Asked for him.
Yeah, probably So it was conscripted.
Yeah. Atun va'akfun medinta. They came and they surrounded the city. Amar lahem in late aton.
This is Aramaic though. Now.
Yeah. And it's Western, it's Eastern Aramaic, not Western Aramaic. That's why it's so much harder than.
I would assume it's Western Aramaic if it's in Israel.
Oh, Western Aramaic. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, Western. Right. You're right. Yahavan le lan anan machrivin medinta. We will destroy the city. Slak gabe Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi upaise, and he appeased him, v'yahavelon, and sent him out to them. V'hava Eliyahu zachor latov yelif mitgalei aloi, would reveal himself to him. V'la itgalie, la itgalei, v'tam kama tzomin v'itgalei aloi. Amar le velimsorot ani nigla. Amar le velo mishne asiti. Didn't I do according to the teaching? Amar le vezo mishnat chasidim. Is this how pious act? Interesting.
Biting.
Yeah. Without
Elijah,
yeah,
even then he had his sharp tongue.
Elijah always has
He'll
this.
always have the sharp tongue.
That's the great thing about Elijah. Even our Elijah, but Elijah, the prophet, definitely. Okay, I think we're done.
That's good.
Anything else you wanted to add, or go ahead and end the stream?
No, I think that was good.
Okay, we will continue next week. Have a happy Lag BaOmer, everyone. If you live in a city where there's large numbers of religious Jews, on Thursday nights, on this Thursday night, there will be bonfires and people dancing around them. So have fun. Bye.